In this video, I'm going to give you the 3 lessons that I learned when I left my 9-to-5 job with a full-time income to go and start my own online business, and what I really learned once it failed, and what you may actually go through if you decide to leave the security of a full-time job to start your own thing. So going back about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was working at a social media agency. And the role was very repetitive. I would edit videos for various TV shows. And I stayed there for about 6 or 7 months. And towards the end of it, it got to a position where I just felt stuck. And I felt depressed and sad. And I just was not enjoying my life. And I got to this point where on the side, I'd been creating a YouTube channel. What had been happening is that was getting some traction. It was all based around technology and growing your influence online. And this YouTube channel, I believed, could be a full-time income, because just prior to that, my previous YouTube channel had nearly 100,000 subscribers, and I was making a full-time income off of that when it was at its height. Sadly, I did let it die whilst I was at university, but I wanted to recreate that on a new YouTube channel, all based around technology and social media, which I really love. And so with stuff like Amazon affiliate marketing, I was gaining some traction with there and also with YouTube. And I thought, if I was to spend all of my time dedicated to building up this YouTube channel, this business, I would feel so happy, and it would give me so much of that freedom that I was not getting with my 9-to-5. And it wasn't until, I think it was about March of 2018, I went to a Gary Vee event and I met Gary Vee. And I explained this whole situation to him, and he told me to just try.
Yes. You know what to do. Yeah. You got time. Okay, go try.
He said, just give it a shot. If you believe you can do it, just try. You're very young. Nothing's bad's really gonna happen. And on the opposite side of all of this now, after doing all of that work, I can fully agree and relate to that. Nothing bad did happen, and I did try, and I did fail. So the day after that meeting with Gary Vee, I decided to hand in my notice, which I did. And a month later, I was unemployed. And so all of a sudden, I was unemployed and I didn't really know what to do. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down those 3 lessons that I learned. And the first lesson was that I didn't really think about how I was going to generate money before I handed in my notice and had left. I think if I was to do this again, what I would do is I would have my main job, and I would be building this side hustle as much as I could until it was gaining big traction or was matching the income that I'm earning on my full-time job. I think at that point, I would leave and move over to the second online business and grow that. I think that was a mistake that I did, was I left too early, and I left to start up this YouTube channel. It was very new. I only had like 200 subs at the time. And, from someone who had nearly 100,000 subscribers before and had built something up, I believed I could do it very rapidly. But these things take time. And, the YouTube algorithm is an enigma, and you can't necessarily fully trust the process with that, because it's constantly changing. You've got to constantly learn what works and what doesn't. What happened was I didn't really think about how I was going to generate money in the short term and in the long term. And that was something that was very detrimental to the progress, and it affected my mindset, which I believe really affected how much content I put out, how much I believed that it was going to work. Only like 2-3 months in, I could kind of feel in my heart that it was time, that this wasn't really going to work, and that I would have to go back to a full-time income. So the 2 ways that I were trying to generate money whilst being self-employed was through building up the YouTube channel and also freelancing with my photo and video skills. So lesson number 2 is that the skills that I was selling to clients as a freelancer with my photo and video skills were not scalable or high value. So what do I mean by that? Well, the first is that freelancing isn't necessarily scalable. Most freelancers are almost always individuals and not businesses. If you are a freelancer, it's hard to become wealthy. It's hard to grow a large business, to earn a high income, simply because the skills that I was doing as a photographer or as a videographer or a video editor, these require my time. They require me to be on set, and they are sort of something where it's not a skill like sales or marketing, where you can ramp that up and delegate to other people, where you can build structures and systems. With freelancing, the projects are very independent, and it wasn't something that I could see in the long term as someone who was young at the time, at like 21, 22. Thinking of this as a business, when I was 40, I couldn't see it being a large business that would benefit me. I feel like it would always require me to be within the business and not being able to build it and sell it on, for example, or have it as passive income. If we take photography, for example, this is not a high value skill, mostly because in the world that we live in, everyone has a mobile phone and they all have a camera on the back of it. And so everyone has this Instagram account where they're taking these photos as they go on holiday or as they visit landmarks. And everyone thinks of themselves as an amazing photographer, which is not the case. Most people are awful photographers who just point and shoot and they're happy with this photograph, and maybe they'll add some color grading to it and they think that they're incredible. When actually, being a photographer is incredibly hard. You have to train your eye to be able to see certain images. You have to have the greatest equipment, or the flash guns, or the different various lighting equipments. And you need to be skilled when it comes to grading your color within a photo editing like Photoshop or Lightroom. There's a lot that goes into being a photographer, but people don't value it because they feel like they themselves are photographers. And so with this perception, I kind of felt that having a freelancing gig as a photographer, as a video editor and a cinematographer, these were not scalable and they were not high value compared to other skills that I could sell, such as marketing. And so I decided that was not good for me when it came to growing a business alongside my YouTube channel. Lesson number 3 is that you need an office or people to check in with. So for me, I worked a lot within this room that I'm in right now. I would wake up from my bed, I would go and have a shower, and I would come back into this room and I would sit at my desk and I would work. And I would work from say 8, 9 a.m. and I'd finish around 10 p.m. And that would happen every single day. And it became the point where I never really left the house because I was putting so much of my energy and time into building up this YouTube channel and this freelancing gigs. And you constantly had to be at your computer with your phone, ringing people, speaking to people, shooting YouTube videos here at the house, that you didn't have time to have a social life. You didn't have time to go outside because you were on zero, you were making no money and you had to pay rent. And so you were constantly working, trying to build something, and it was draining. It was incredibly draining because you didn't really have a social life. There was no one that you could go and check in with. It wasn't like a 9 to 5 where you wake up from your house, you shower, you get dressed, and then you travel to work and you go to an office where you work, and when you come home, you switch off. When I was here, I didn't have that because everything was me being in this one room, living, working, sleeping, and it was very draining. And that was eventually the thing that broke me down, that required me to go back to a 9 to 5. It was very tough being here all the time. I would obviously go to, say, coffee shops, for example, but it didn't really help that much. I think if I was to do this thing again, I would make sure that my side hustle had enough money for me to pay for a co-working space. So I could travel to, say, a WeWork, for example, every single day and have that mental shift in my brain that allowed me to say, this is work time, and when I'm at home, this is leisure, relaxing, sleeping time. So where am I now? What am I doing? Well, after this YouTube channel, this online business failed, I got a much better job. I went back to the 9 to 5. I made sure that it was a job that I was happy with, and I made sure that the job that I got was something that would allow me to learn a high value skill. I am currently working on side hustles right now that I want to match or exceed my current full-time income, and that once it does, only then will I decide to leave my current 9 to 5 job to go ahead and work on that online business. And that's what I want to reinforce to you today. As you watch this video, if you're thinking about leaving your 9 to 5, I recommend that you make sure you don't leave too early in the process. Have patience and understand that only once you match or exceed or see dramatic, consistent growth, only then should you leave your full-time income for your side hustle. In my situation, I would have been much better off if I had a strategy in place and an established audience and wasn't trying to build from the ground up. Pause this video, scroll down and write in the comments one thing that you have learned from watching this video. If you take the time to write down and think about one thing that you've learned from this video, it will help you to remember that lesson, and hopefully it will make an impression on you. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video from Think Life Freedom, be sure to give the video a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.